Listen to Downtown Hot Radio on the air 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.
Hey guys, peace and blessings. This is Walil Archer from the Real Rap Radio Show on Downtown Hot Radio. I have a special guest with me today. I have the published author Alcott Germany II. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Walil. Thanks for having me on the show. Really
My,
excited.
my pleasure, my pleasure. So let's talk about your book.
All right. So this book, Real World 101 Student Guide, it's a short, fun read that's really written in a different kind of tone. If you were to read this book, you should get the feel that you're having a conversation with someone. It's not meant to be a lecture piece, but what it does is it really challenges the stereotypes that come with education when you're a student in the classroom, which is what went into even the design of the cover. When you're, in that classroom and you're like, what am I doing here? And you just start sketching things on your notebook to, pass the time. But it's really intended to challenge those stereotypes and understand how to make education work for you versus just going through the motions and doing what other people think school should do for you. And it's all about really establishing connections and doing it in a way that challenges your own thinking. So if you were to actually write a book report on it, you wouldn't be writing about the book or me, you'd be writing about yourself.
Awesome. How did you come up with that title?
No, I'm glad you asked that because one thing I definitely want to share in this interview was just my love for the state of Georgia. And it really started in my time. I'm a native Detroiter, but I actually moved down to Albany. I'm going to say that right, Albany, Georgia, back in 2005. And in that time, I've always focused on mentorship with young adults to really have the kind of conversations that you would really take away from the book as you read it. And in that space, I I was being invited to all of the schools in the Albany area, actually, and in that time, just having great conversation with the students, really galvanizing their excitement by breaking down those stereotypes and really doing a lot of myth busting and just having fun along the way. And the person who was inviting me, who was also an employee, we were both actually employees at Procter and Gamble at the time, and as we were going through these sessions with the students, we got back in the office one day and she said, you should probably call this something. And again, it wasn't, I was just showing up as a guest, because I was so passionate about mentoring young adults. And her name, I don't know if she's listening, her name's Kim White, and she says, you should probably call this something like Real World 101. And this was a good year or two before I decided to even write the book. But that's really what inspired it. I didn't go into this thinking that I was going to publish a book at all. That was not my initial intent. What inspired me to write the book were the young people who I had a chance to interact with, and they were asking me, was there additional content that they could reference because the conversation was so great. And I even had a couple of teachers ask me that as well. And so when I decided to move on from working at Procter and Gamble, that was really what stood on my heart is using that title, Real World 101, and writing it in the same voice that I was projecting and presenting with all those young adults in the Albany, Georgia area.
Nice. Can you share some things from the book that you want the listeners to know about?
Yes, a couple of things, and I really want to make certain I clarify that although in electing who the target audience is and my preferences of young adults, I actually wrote it in a way for it to be timeless. So I've had adults reading the book coming back and talking about the lessons that they had. But the first excerpt of the book is actually a letter to it's called a letter to parents. And what it does is it actually sets the precedent for the parents of our young adults to be, the stakeholders and the gatekeepers of their young persons or their child's knowledge. And what it does is it really sets the stage and saying, hey, parent or guardian, this is the ride that the reader is about to go on, whether that's you or the young adult in your house. And so it really opens up to set the stage that this isn't just your typical book of, I'm going to tell you how to do things. That's not what this is about. So it sort of sets that tone there. And then we get into really some of the stereotypical questions that come with being in the classroom, going through the mundane routines at times of going to school. And so there's excerpts about mathematics, science, social studies, and the arts, but we title it under a heading called "What's This For?" And in that space, we start to break down that mathematics isn't about you just learning equations, or in science isn't just about you reading a biology book. Think of it more in a sense of when you need to understand what it means to have a conversation with a physician, what it means to have a conversation about a loved one who you see in the hospital, and you want to have that dialect and you want to have that understanding. When you're thinking about the arts, that it's more than just painting and pictures. It's about creativity and actually using those sciences to your advantage. And so that's like how the book opens. It's just busting stereotypes around those topics that sometimes our students shy away from. And then after that, it's like, okay, so you told me all of that. So the next part is, so what now? Which is what we hear from people all the time. Like, you've given me all this great information, now what? And so we go through that journey. And then after that, it's a what next excerpt. And that's really, again, to not run from the question, because in a lot of ways, one of the things that our young people run into, and I ran into, so I don't want to just call it out young people like it's a new problem, but we sometimes run away from asking the question of what's this supposed to do for me? And, well, because you're supposed to get good grades, well, because you're supposed to get a good job. And that's not reality. If you're just doing things simply because you're being told to do so, doesn't mean you shouldn't respect authority and respect the people who come before you. But you should also be able to connect what you're learning to what you're seeing in the world, because that's how the world will change for the better. And so that's really the kind of content that we find. And not to give anything away, but I think it's an important thing to bring up in our dialogue is the title of Real World 101 was really more of a play on words. And so, when you get into some of the conversations with adults or whoever that may say, well, I'm trying to prepare you for the real world. That was something that we always heard, right? And what I really want every reader to understand is, well, you shouldn't want to walk into any place trying to prepare for the real world. The real world should be preparing itself for you. And that's really the message that you want to take away from this is, how do you equip yourself so the world starts preparing itself for what you're going to do?
What preparation and creativity went into putting the book together?
Oh man, it was fun. It was fun. Because it didn't take me long to write, but the preparation that went into it was really more so taking those conversations that I had, thinking about my journey as well. When you read about the author section, and sometimes someone will be like, how did you, do this and end up here? I have an undergrad in chemical engineering. Go figure, right? And and so, but my preparation and being a chemical engineer in undergrad is, I didn't want to be limited by a particular discipline. My master's is in education because my life always tied me to having that passion and allowing me to connect what I do understand in the sciences to something that's a lot more applicable to other people. But in that same space, I've also written like screenplays, and I like music and creativity and never limiting yourself. And so to get back to your question about what went into it, it was really about trying to configure the message in a way that was digestible so it could not be so arbitrary, but it really was more so taking those experiences in that of real dialogue, of real content, of real situations, and turning them into something digestible that someone can walk away with. Because I knew that I couldn't be at every school or in engaging with every student, um, even though I would love to do that. And so my preparation really came into breaking down and making certain that everything was meaningful, and then being my own worst critic, and saying, hey, you know what, this might be a little too long. Let me dial it down. I could have easily made that book 10 times longer, but that wasn't the point. The point was to make you want to think about what you want to do. And so those were the ingredients. And that went into even the design of the cover. Like, what's something that's catchy that people can relate to? Oh, you know what? This new notepad concept with, just sketching things on the cover because you're thinking about your dreams, you're thinking about your passions. And I really wanted to make this manuscript a script about the reader, not about me and not about, what I think you should know. These are the things that I believe can help you answer some questions that sometimes we are afraid to ask because we're told just get in line and do it. And I think that's why it's been able to resonate with so many people. And this second publication, I now have a partner that's helping me market it, and it's really, picking up a lot of steam, and I'm thankful for it.
Nice.
Yes.
Now, did you self-publish the book?
Yes. So the first publication, I'm an independent author, and I did partner with a company called Book Surge that was later purchased by Amazon years later. Learned a lot. I mean, even in the space where I'm talking about learning, I'm also learning how to be a published author. And so we really had a very strong quality book, but they didn't have a big marketing leg. But and that was really fine with me. I think I've shared this story a couple of times on a couple of interviews. And one thing that resonated with me in the first publication when I was speaking in audiences in both the Georgia area and back at home in Detroit, I had a Detroiter. I was in the Detroit Public Library, and this young girl who I remember speaking with, as a public speaker in the teen center, she came up to me, very emotional, with tears in her eyes, and I thought maybe she was in danger. I was like, "Hey, is everything cool? Like, you need me to do something? I do remember you." And she looked up at me with my book in her hand and just told me how much the book meant to her and the questions that it answered for her. And I remember in that moment that if I never sold another copy, I did my job. Like, maybe all of this was just for you. And if that was the case, then I'm good with that. I can live with that. And so, in this same space, I really do think about this second go round where City of Books, who's my current publisher, reached out to me like a year ago. And at first I thought they were like scammers or something. Like, they're like, what would make you ask me about this book many years later? And that's when they said, like, no, Mr. Germany, I think that you have a lot of an untapped audience. And, we have the capabilities of extending that reach in ways you probably couldn't before as an independent author. And, let's partner and let's talk through it. And we did. And now we're, on the cusp of having this book available on all these platforms, which we can talk about later, but also in multiple languages. So we actually have this book available and currently in both English and Spanish, but French, Mandarin, Japanese, Arabic, as well as the audiobooks in English, German, and Spanish coming out, and a German translation. So and that's not even all the languages, but I'm excited for it and I'm thankful for it. I just feel like, we really now have an opportunity to keep this thing going in a bigger way. For them to just share with me as well, City of Books were like, you have nothing but 5-star reviews on Amazon. Well, it wasn't that many, but they said, actually, there's reviews that you've received that you don't even see on the site. And so to know that it's resonating with all the readers that, did take part in the first publication, and now we're just looking to push that envelope even further. I'm excited about it. I really am, and I'm excited for every young person or every person that this helps.
So from start to finish, how long would you say it took you to write the book?
Thank you for asking that question, because I was going to leave that part out because I know I can be long-winded at times. It only took me a month to write it, and I wrote it in my aunt's attic. I actually had moved away from Procter and Gamble and decided to go on my own. And this book was on my heart to write, but it had been on my heart to write for about 5 or 6 years, not knowing that I was ever going to write it. Because again, I wasn't thinking about writing a book. And I was in her attic. I had a comforter, a mattress, a pillow, and an old laptop. And I just it just flowed. And I know all books aren't written like that. I know I have another project that's coming out that didn't get written that quickly. But I would say, yeah, my first draft before reaching out to the publisher probably took me 30, maybe I think 30 days, give or take. Like it really flowed. But again, Walil, it flowed because I had the conversations already. So it was more about just polishing it up so that it was a digestible read. But the content had been in my head and my heart for years. And so it was really kind of eye-opening when I had shared with other people, like, yeah, it was like, how long did it take you to do this? And I was like, about a month. And but it flowed because it was always in there. I guess when people even talk about making songs and they just go into the studio and it just comes out, it flowed just as fluid, and I'm thankful for that, and it let me know that I was on to something. That when it came out that clean for me.
With the success of this book, are you looking forward to writing your next book?
So I do have another one coming out, and that's lets me know how God's plan works. When I received the call from City of Books about this book, I had already made the decision to finally write the second one.
Okay.
So, and I just made it because I honestly thought that I would have wrote my second one far sooner than now. But life, kids, marriage, all that good stuff, took precedent, and I'm glad about that. So yes, I do have another book coming out. Not going to give away the title just yet, but it'll probably sound kind of familiar. But it's written in a very similar voice, and it's about leadership, and it really is more so tied or directed towards an adult audience, and it speaks in a similar conversational voice, but it also chronicles the kinds of things that I've learned as a leader, as a teacher. I've had a lot of career success. I've had a lot of career experiences that have allowed me to really develop a pretty strong playbook on what it takes to be a strong leader in any scenario. And so I do look to have that book coming out pretty soon. I'm hoping, if not by the fall of this year, first quarter of next year. But City of Books is already working on it. And so, yeah, it's coming. It's coming, and it's coming soon.
And where can they find your current book at?
Current books are available on all of your online platforms. So Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Walmart, and Target have it. Powell's, I think, is big in your area as well. And so all of the online platforms that you can find books in both the English and the Spanish versions. So the English and the Spanish versions are available online. Coming to a store near you, we will have brick and mortar in Walmart and Target, but currently it's live online in all of those places. We even have starting to have some bookstores in the Midwest and even in Canada. I think in Toronto, they've have some brick and mortar stores that have the book as well. So excited about that. And yes, but for all of my folks that are listening, streaming, definitely just go to all of your online book retailers, and you'll definitely find that Real World 101, or you can search Alcott Germany II, and you'll find it there.
And as we close out, any final thoughts or closing remarks?
Yes. Feel free to also reach out to me on my website, alcottgermany2.com. That's ALCOTT. Germany spelled like the country, the second.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I've actually found you, Walil, on LinkedIn. So I'll be connecting with you offline. And I'm also on Instagram. So feel free to drop a dime. I've also had some schools reach out to me. Actually, there's a school in Savannah, Georgia that's interested in making this a part of required reading. And so definitely just want to continuously push this book, and not for me, but for all those young adults out there that are asking the question. And so for those who don't even like reading, they love this book, and definitely continue to be certain to never run away from answering the question, and use this book anytime to make that happen. And also, I'm available to speak in any venue to reiterate that message. But last but not least, Will, I just want to thank you for having me on your show. And it means a lot to me that you are interviewing me out of an area that I do call my second home. So shout out to everybody in the state of Georgia, specifically Albany, Metro Atlanta, Columbus, Macon, Warner Robins, Conyers. You are a big reason why this book was created, because you inspired me to do it, and you supported me as I was doing it, because that first publication, I don't think I could have did it without the support of those areas. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who I just called out. And there's more names that I can think of, but I definitely just want to call out everybody in those areas, man. I got nothing but love for you. And of course, I'm always going to carry Detroit with me wherever I go.
Very heartfelt, very heartfelt. Well, I'd like to thank you for doing the interview today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege, man. I really appreciate this.
My pleasure. So that's my time today on the Real Rap Radio Show. And I'll see you guys the next time on the Real Rap Radio Show with Walil Archer on Downtown Hott Radio. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Listen to Downtown Hott Radio on the air 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Tune in by downloading the Downtown Hott Radio's mobile app. Listen on our website, www.downtownhottradio.com.